Rewatch Alert, 2024's most thrilling K-drama The Tyrant from the Witch Part 1 director. The story kicks off at a funeral, where a girl bids farewell to her adoptive father, but the arrival of an unexpected guest turns her world upside down. The man?
밥은 먹었냐?
Moo-young, a mere restaurant owner, or is he? After all, what restaurant hires that many bodyguards? Despite the men watching her closely, the girl savors her meal unfazed, stirring a strange resentment in Moo-young.
넌 남의 해장국집에서 굳이 짜장면을 시켜먹고 그러냐?
Yet, a single look from her shuts him up, and he even offers her pickles, urging her to finish. Then, he slides over 2 fat stacks of cash, calling them a down payment and promising a 100-fold reward after the job.
됐어. 안 해.
어?
야, 잠깐만. 아니, 왜 네 맘대로 결정해?
When the girl starts muttering to herself, no one is surprised. They all know she has a split personality, but that's precisely what gives Moo-young an opening. He claims that the safe for this heist was meticulously crafted by a Swedish master, a masterpiece and his ultimate retirement work. His words seem to sway her. Before long, she's swept into a heist scene littered with bodies, clutching a locked combination case and personally taking out the last survivor. Just as Moo-young's car rolls in, an unexpected twist erupts, with the girl tossed into a reservoir to erase all traces. Yet, fate has other plans. The water saves her, and with lightning reflexes, she dodges a bullet by mere inches. Bruised but unbroken, she seems more concerned with the small white funeral flower still pinned to her head. After dusting it off, she pulls out a cloth from her jacket. Inside is the ultimate prize, a vial of serum rumored to turn people superhuman. She doesn't yet know its power, so she stows it safely away. For now, survival is her priority. Stranded in the wilderness, she'll have to find her way back. Cut to a taxi pulling up in the middle of nowhere, with 2 guys and a young woman crammed inside. From the young woman's uneasy expression, it's clear this trip won't end well for her. The cramped taxi leaves little room, so while one man stays with her, the driver steps out for a quick break, but just as he reaches for his zipper, a strange sound startles him. He turns, seeing nothing, just silence. Without a word, she picks up a branch and snaps it in 2. In the taxi, the kidnappers try to restrain the young woman, so the kidnapper steps out to investigate, only to walk right into her trap, just as the girl's about to drive off. A quick glance back catches sight of the young woman struggling to her feet, and fury flares up inside her. She swings the car around, accelerating straight at him, and mows him down. Still not satisfied, she finds the driver, slamming her broken stick into the ground beside him. Her ruthlessness even leaves the young woman terrified. She leaps out of the car and runs for her life. Watching her flee, the girl doesn't bother explaining. She'll leave her to fate in the wilderness. The only thing left to do now is eliminate the scum for good. Meanwhile, a man arrived at Moo-young's restaurant, staring at a full bowl of duck blood noodles without even touching his chopsticks. After Moo-young finished his meal, his subordinate finally delivered a combination lock case.
회사에서 신혼 금방 딸 거야. 뭐 이런 애 하루 이틀인가 걱정은.
Clearly, Moo-young was following the man's orders, but the man was just a messenger. It turned out these men belonged to Team A of the National Intelligence Service, while the syringes were part of Team B's operations. In other words, this was an internal power struggle within the National Intelligence Service, one that showed no regard for anyone's life. Even Moo-young's restaurant team was marked for elimination. Luckily, Moo-young's experience came through. As he re-entered the room, he subtly pulled his 2 attackers close. Meanwhile, Showdown lay in a makeshift operating room as a black market doctor stitched his wounds one by one. But black market doctors have little sense of loyalty. When the doctor saw cash and a bundle of cloth nearby, he thought he'd take the lot. However, one look at the syringe's contents revealed they belonged to the NIS. Hoping for a reward, he called a contact to leak that Showdown was alive and in his care. Within half an hour, a knock sounded on the door, and the doctor started dreaming of riches. But when the group burst into the operating room, Showdown was nowhere to be found. Before they could spread out to search, Showdown suddenly appeared behind them. For him, there was no need to run from a few goons. A brief but intense fight broke out. As a girl, the first thing Jia Jiang did after taking down her enemies was to freshen up. But when it came to borrowing clothes, her two personalities clashed again. The outfit she ended up choosing was hardly her favorite, but it would turn out to be her last as a human, with revenge on her mind. Jia Jiang set out to find Mu Young at the restaurant. Along the way, she borrowed a truck but encountered an unexpected obstacle: the top assassin, Lim Sang. Lim Sang arrived at a secluded mountain cabin, owned by a local logger who had supposedly encountered a three-armed monster in the woods. The man had barely escaped death when sunlight broke through, burning the monster alive, but a drop of its dark liquid had seeped into the logger's eye, leaving him now bedridden and barely hanging on. His wife, at a loss, watched as her husband's claims of a monster attack frightened the villagers so much that many had fled.
요게 맞습니까?
From the logger's reaction, Lim Sang quickly identified him as his target. Without hesitation, he put on his sun hat and aimed his gun at the wife. Sensing danger, the black substance inside the logger tried to escape, but Lim Sang shot it back and fired 3 more shots into the man's eyes, finally obliterating the creature. A quick blaze to destroy the evidence completed his mission. Just as he was about to start his car, Lim Sang received a new assignment: the restaurant's Mu Young and the girl, Jia Jiang. On the other side of town, Jia Jiang arrived at Mu Young's restaurant, grabbing a safety pin before stepping out of the vehicle. What she didn't expect was that the restaurant was unlocked and completely empty. However, the photo of the 3 people on the wall pointed her in the right direction: the arms dealer, Han Wong. Meanwhile, the head of Team B from the National Intelligence Service rode an elevator up to the top of Namsan Tower. Stopped by bodyguards, he made no complaints. It was clear that the man he was meeting was far above him in rank.
Every time I visit, the landscape has changed. Or maybe Korean jobs has to be changed.
Indeed, this visitor from the U.S., Paul, was furious about the serum's disappearance and had come to Korea not only to recover it but to obliterate Team A entirely. This intense humiliation didn't provoke any protest from Korea's Team B leader, though he held a high position in Korea. He appeared utterly powerless in front of Paul. Jia Jiang arrived at Han Wong's hideout and first stopped to grab 3 drinks from a vending machine. She drank one, tucked the other 2 into her jacket, and knocked on Han Wong's door. Awoken in the dead of night, Han Wong's henchman lost his patience and immediately hurled insults at her. But Jia Jiang didn't stop at knocking him down. She kept going until he was nearly unrecognizable. To be fair, the henchman underestimated her, assuming the petite figure was just a delivery girl until Han Wong saw her himself and quickly reached for his gun. Unlike his clueless henchman, Han Wong knew just how dangerous Jia Jiang could be. He offered her his best weapon, hoping to get rid of her as fast as possible. However, one Russian henchman failed to grasp the seriousness of the situation and tried to sidle up to her. In half a minute of gunfire, the entire hideout was destroyed, leaving Han Wong as the only one still breathing. Jia Jiang questioned him about Mu Young's whereabouts, and Han Wong, understanding his position, quickly revealed that Mu Young was likely hiding in his hometown, Busan. Though Han Wong was cooperative, Jia Jiang knew she couldn't leave any loose ends. If Han Wong ever sought revenge, he would bring endless trouble. Meanwhile, Lim Sang had already arrived in Busan and was one step ahead. Finding Mu Young's hideout, after confirming there was someone inside, he quickly drew his gun. The entire operation was executed swiftly, leaving just one survivor to extract information about Mu Young's whereabouts. However, the man misread the situation, thinking he could use his knowledge to bargain for his life, but that was a fatal mistake. At the same time, Jia Jiang also arrived at the scene and, upon entering, immediately crossed paths with Lim Sang. After they passed each other, both stopped in their tracks simultaneously. Lim Sang sensed that Jia Jiang might be his next target, while Jia Jiang picked up the strong scent of gunpowder in the air. Just as Lim Sang reached for his bag, Jia Jiang quickly improvised, pretending to be a priest to avoid unnecessary conflict. Lim Sang, momentarily fooled, let the encounter pass. However, After enlarging the photo he had, Lim Sang realized Judge Jiang was indeed his next target. He decided to wait downstairs, hoping to ambush her. Judge Jiang, on the other hand, wasn't shocked by the bodies scattered around the hideout. Instead, she was relieved that Mu Young wasn't among them. This meant she could still exact her revenge in person. As Lim Sang kept an eye out, he accidentally bumped into a group of rowdy young men, who quickly surrounded him. Unable to do anything but watch as Judge Jiang walked further away, Lim Sang found himself in a tight spot. Fortunately, the group led him to a parking lot to chat, finally giving him a chance to break free. In the next scene, the group lay scattered on the ground, stacked like dominoes, with their fate unclear whether dead or alive. Meanwhile, Judge Jiang tracked down the third person from the photo and laid her weapons on the table, letting him choose how this would go. The two had known each other for a long time, and he understood her well, so he was more than willing to answer all her questions, but he truly didn't know Mu Young's whereabouts. He only warned Judge Jiang that Mu Young had the backing of the National Intelligence Service, an entity she couldn't possibly contend with. As he continued trying to persuade her, Judge Jiang suddenly signaled him to be quiet and turned to look outside. The next second, the man's death was truly unfortunate. He'd cooperated fully from start to finish, but that still couldn't save him. The shooter was none other than the assassin, Lim Sang. As Lim Sang's gaze drifted downward, a cold sweat broke out. If he couldn't die quickly, the rest of his life would be a torment worse than death. The fight finally paused as both were injured and took a moment to tend their wounds with a synchronization that was almost eerie. Just as they were ready to launch into round 2, Lim Sang suddenly received a message, his expression turning serious.
안 쏩니다. 네, 안 쏴요. 안 쏩니다. 죄송하지만 우리 일은 잠시 멈추시고 같이 좀 가주시죠. 급하게 처리할 일이 생겼습니다. 어서요.
Judge Jiang, puzzled, made no move to attack. Upon learning Mu Young's whereabouts, her expression grew serious. Meanwhile, Mu Young, realizing his days were numbered, had sought out Team B from the National Intelligence Service, hoping his teammates might earn their protection, but he hadn't anticipated that. Before they could get far, Paul's men would intercept them without warning, opening fire. Luckily, Mu Young and the Team B deputy were seated in the back, allowing them to narrowly escape harm for the moment. A burly man climbed onto the roof and ripped open the top hatch, while another agent tore off the car door, grabbing Mu Young by the hair and dragging him out. The Team B deputy dared not protest, merely hoping he could survive this ordeal. Paul then mentioned Director Cho, the head of Team A, who was also confined inside the car. Only his knowledge of Team A's secrets kept him alive, though just barely.
어떻게 나한테 그럴 수가 있나? 내가 왜 그렇게 죽어야 될까?
It was clear that the one who ordered the hit through assassin Lim Sang was none other than Director Cho himself. Tracking the convoy's location, Lim Sang quickly caught up, taking out the last vehicle before its occupants even knew what hit them, leaving it a heap of twisted metal. The second-to-last car had to stop to block him, but inside was the brute who had ripped the car door off earlier. As he approached, his skin turned metallic. One of Paul's 2 super soldiers, able to withstand shotgun blasts and ram cars off the road. However, upon reaching Lim Sang's car, he found it empty. He scanned the nearby bushes, only to be taken down by a single shot from Judge Jiang. To their surprise, the man stood up once again. Just looking at her, you could almost feel the pain of that hit. As he closed in on Judge Jiang, ready to deliver a fatal blow, Lim Sang appeared just in time, having dealt with similar monsters before. Lim Sang didn't hesitate. He fired 3 more rounds in rapid succession, finally shattering the creature's skull and bringing him down for good. Pulling her collar aside, she was horrified to find her skin crawling with a dark substance, the syringe contents that had been hiding in her body. When the man's kick had shattered the syringe, the black substance began to spread. Recognizing it immediately, Lim Sang moved to strike preemptively, but Judge Jiang shoved him away, proving she hadn't lost her mind to it.
일단 연모형한테 가자고. 우리 볼 일은 그 뒤에 보기로 했지.
Meanwhile, Paul's convoy arrived at an abandoned theater, a secret Team A stronghold. Hearing his men being slaughtered inside, Director Cho showed no reaction, as though the chaos had nothing to do with him, with a super soldier leading the charge. Even riddled with bullets, he could still close in on his target. Once the perimeter was cleared, Paul's team gathered in front of a large iron door. Beyond it was Team A's final base. But the response from inside surprised Paul. Rushing forward to check the locked case, Paul discovered it was completely empty, since it had been retrieved. The case had been undergoing a lengthy code-breaking process, and only now had they unlocked it only to find nothing inside. Realizing this, the entire team was plunged into despair. Paul refused to believe Director Ko's claim that he didn't know the serum's location. To force a confession, Paul began executing Ko's man right in front of him. When it was Moo-young's turn, he suddenly realized that only Ja-jaeyoung could open the locked case.
최자경,
While Lim Sang tore through the theater, clearing out Paul's henchmen, Ja-jaeyoung confronted Paul's last superhuman soldier head-on. Their brutal brawl had no finesse. It was an endurance test, with each blow more relentless than the last. Lim Sang's side settled the score first, as he nearly succeeded in taking Paul's head. Yet Paul showed no fear, confident his CIA connections would protect him. Director Cho merely smirked, lightly tapping Paul's arm, while Moo-young tried to slip away. The wall finally gave way under the relentless assault, collapsing completely. Seeing the dark substance crawling over Ja-jaeyoung's hands, Director Cho immediately realized she was the new human they had been desperately seeking. What followed was a fierce showdown between the two, as the man struck Ja-jaeyoung's shoulder with all his strength. His blade couldn't penetrate at all and was nearly repelled by the dark substance on her skin. With a final blow, Ja-jaeyoung pinned the man against the stone pillar, ending their battle for now, at least. Just as she finally tracked down Moo-young and killed him, Lim Sang suddenly fired at Ja-jaeyoung. Though he knew he couldn't match her strength, he refused to retreat. But Director Cho interrupted, ordering the lights on. Ja-jaeyoung let out a pained scream but didn't disintegrate like the creature in the forest. She only writhed on stage, a figure of agony. After half a minute, she seized a gun, shot out the lights, and reclaimed her place at the top of the food chain. Director Cho calmly checked his watch, still completely unruffled.
빨리 가. 더 늦으면 너 힘들어져. 아주 어두운 곳을 찾아.
At that moment, footsteps sounded outside. Team B had arrived. He urged Ja-jaeyoung to leave, warning her that at dawn, they'd both be lost to history. As Team B stormed in, Cho seemed to surrender but, with one swift move, seized a guard's gun. Instead of firing at the deputy, he turned it on himself, denying Team B any further intel until In the ensuing chaos, Lim Sang grabbed a gun, firing his way to an escape route, then hurled himself out the window, taking several bullets along the way. He plummeted toward the sea, but his limp form was quickly sinking underwater, bleeding out and motionless. As he descended into the depths, a shadow flitted by. Perhaps Ja-jaeyoung. If it was indeed her, he might still have a slim chance of survival. End of Season 1.